How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I have walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to GB News. I'm Aaron Armstrong. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. In this breaking news just into us, 3 British men are being held in Taliban custody in Afghanistan, including the so-called danger tourist Miles Routledge, who had to be rescued from Kabul by British forces less than 2 years ago. Now, it's understood the other 2 men are the charity medic Kevin Cornwall and an unnamed UK national who manages a hotel in the Afghan capital. The Foreign Office says it's working hard to secure contact with the men who have been detained, and they are currently providing support to the families. More on that one as soon as we get it. The Home Secretary will introduce new measures to tackle child sexual abuse and will take on grooming gangs. Writing in the Mail on Sunday, Suella Braverman's announced those working with children will have a legal duty to report signs or suspicions of child sexual abuse. She's also indicated the Prime Minister will announce new plans to clamp down on grooming gangs next week. Extra ferries will sail overnight from the port of Dover as it works through the Easter getaway backlog. Coaches of adults and children have been delayed for up to 16 hours and have described the situation as absolute carnage. Now, the port has blamed lengthy French border processes. It claims to have had 15% more coaches than anticipated this year. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has described Russia taking over the presidency of the UN's top security body as absurd. Each of the Council's 15 members, the UN Security Council that is, assumes the role on a rotating basis for a month. Russia's President Vladimir Putin is currently facing an international arrest warrant for alleged war crimes. Zelensky says this demonstrates the institution's total bankruptcy.
There is no form of terror that Russia has not already committed, and there will be no reason that will stop the reform of global institutions, in particular the UN Security Council. The reform that is obviously overdue to prevent a terrorist state and any other state that wants to be a terrorist from destroying the peace. Terrorists must lose, must be held accountable for terror, and not preside anywhere.
2 women in Iran who've been attacked with yogurt for not covering their hair in public have been arrested. The footage, which has gone viral, shows a man getting increasingly animated with 2 female customers before throwing a tub of yogurt over their heads. Now, it's illegal for women in Iran to be seen in public without a hijab. The regime's judiciary says the attacker has also been arrested for disturbing the peace. At least 21 people are now known to have died and dozens more injured following a series of tornadoes in the United States. There's been extensive damage to properties and vehicles across the south and midwest of the country, with states of emergency declared in Arkansas and Missouri. The company Power Outage US, which tracks homes left without electricity, says around 90,000 people in Arkansas have been affected, with 6 other states reporting difficulties. £8 million worth of taxpayers' money will be spent offering public authorities a new portrait of the King. Public authorities like schools, courts, councils and police forces will be able to claim the official picture as part of a new government scheme. The Cabinet Office says it's tradition for many institutions to display official royal portraits. TV online, DAB, plus radio and on TuneIn, this is GB News. Now it's time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I hope you're having a fantastic Saturday night. I'm Leo Kearse and I'm joined by 2 comedians I think are hilarious, and I'm not going to write my script anymore. Jonathan Cogan.
Hey, what's up?
And Diane Spencer. How you both doing?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, very well,
pretty good.
thank you.
Pretty good.
Okay, that sounded quite coy. I'm not going to dig any deeper. I think, maybe you're having an affair. Anyway, the Sunday Mail. Let's go through the front pages. We've got the Sunday Mail with vegan mob plots to sabotage the Grand National. We've got the Sunday Telegraph with staff can sue their boss if customers offend them. Oh my God, I hope it doesn't apply to GB News. We've got the Observer with care homes crisis, children sent hundreds of miles away. The Sunday Mirror leads with have a laugh at my funeral. That's the funeral of Paul O'Grady. The Sunday Express has Rishi has 6 months to sort out the boat crisis. And finally, the Daily Star goes with another funny weather-related one, Easter Bunny in sunnies. And those were your front pages. Let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Mail on Sunday, Jonathan.
Yeah, this is some pretty exciting news. So a vegan mob plots to sabotage the Grand National. Undercover investigation exposes plan by up to 100 Animal Rebellion activists to storm the event and glue themselves to the course. Now, the immediate irony here is that glue is made of out-of-work horses.
Yeah.
So that is already off to a bad start. But
That's the joke I had written down as well.
Did you? The same one? Yeah. Oh, God, that's why we should... Great minds. Same writers. OK, so militant vegans and animal rights campaigners plan to use ladders and bolt cutters to storm security fences before the race at Aintree, then glue themselves together as a human barricade and sit across the course. So this was, this was brought up and discovered by a Mail on Sunday reporter who basically posed as one of them and then found it out. But if you don't know, Animal Rebellion are an offshoot of the militant environmental protest group Extinction Rebellion, which was founded in 2019 and wants all animal farming and fishing banned. It also wants to end horse racing, branding it as animal abuse. So they are pretty militant.
So they want to ruin our fun, not just in restaurants, but at the racetrack. I mean, what are we going to bet on? We're going to drop sticks from bridges and see which one crosses first?
Yeah, it means they wouldn't even let you do greyhound racing, and that is really great. You get fantastic chips with that. I mean, this is just... incredible that the Mail on Sunday are the people who discovered it. Like, not MI5, not the police, the journalists.
I thought MOS was like Ministry of something, but it wasn't.
No, it's the Mail on Sunday. And what is interesting is they're clearly trying to get some, press for their cause by causing this disruption, which will annoy 600 million people who want to watch the races. I don't think that by annoying them and stopping their programme, you're going to get people to give you much sympathy towards your cause. Yeah,
and of course, horse racing isn't a huge contributor to carbon. I guess they're worried about, every year we do see, unfortunately, a few horses sometimes die at the Grand National. I mean, sometimes there aren't any, but, quite often we see
Mainly of shame.
Well, I mean, that and falling over and breaking a leg.
But then you could have the special horse Olympics afterwards for the horses who have been injured in those races and then come back on. And
we have a sort of Paralympic team for animals.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's possible. Well, one thing to note here is...
Finding solutions, not problems, John.
Exactly. This is out-of-the-box thinking. But one thing to note is that the leader of Animal Rebellion did actually want to make it clear that they were, although they were against all these things, they were actually pro-interspecies relationships.
You're joking.
No. And Mr.
Are you serious?
No.
And Mr. D. Davis says horse riding is wrong, but having a horse ride you is oh so right.
Did he really? Oh my God! I think we're going to move on. before this degenerates any further, next up we've got the front cover of the Telegraph, Dan. What are they leading with?
Oh my word, this is incredible. So apparently staff can sue their boss if customers offend them. So this is all to do with the Workers' Protection Bill, which an example that's given in this article is that if J.K. Rowling, well, I mean, controversial already, everybody just sit down, all right? If J.K. Rowling turns up and dares to read from one of her books, somebody might turn up wearing a woman is an adult human female T-shirt, and then somebody who works in the bookshop might be offended, and then they could sue the bookshop.
Right.
What?
So basically, anybody can get offended about anything because offence is subjective. So this bill opens up a poorly worded world where anybody can sue over anything.
Yeah, essentially, as long as you get offended by something, which, as we all know, you can pick and choose because offence is much like humour. Everybody's is slightly different. As long as you, I'm self-employed. So who do I get to sue? I can't sue anybody. I mean, people are trying to offend me on Twitter all the time.
Well, that is a good point, because if the people on Twitter are essentially the customers, the viewers watching GB, let's say you guys get a mean tweet from someone and that offends you, could you then sue
Could we sue GB News?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that Rishi Sunak has perhaps taken his eye off the ball here because he's been trying to paint the Tories as the party of sort of none of this woke nonsense. Sorry to paraphrase it in a Top Gear sounding type way, but none of this woke nonsense.
Pull up your jeans, pull them up high.
Yeah, but people, we're not going to legislate feelings and we're not going to allow woke nonsense to permeate public life. But this seems to be the opposite, and this is a sort of it's a Lib Dem bill that's been brought. I think it's been brought by a backbencher, so it's not as if it's something that the Tories would get behind anyway.
Yeah, but what's weird is that it was kind of snuck through. The bill was waved through the Commons, this article says, without a vote during a Friday sitting. I mean, who's paying attention on a Friday? Yeah. Nobody's paying attention on Friday. You've checked out Thursday evening.
Yeah, nobody likes the person in a meeting on a Friday afternoon who says, actually, I've got a question. You know what I mean? Obviously, we're not going to contest that. They're already thinking of the pints.
Yeah. So that's how it got through.
Right.
But like you said, maybe Rishi will now kind of pick it up and go, no.
Yeah, so it could be a major embarrassment
Embarrassment for Rishi.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Embarrassment. That's great. That's your headline.
I might have just coined a new name for the Prime Minister there. Anyway, we've got the Sunday Express now, Jonathan. What have they got in the front?
Yeah, so this is still a very ongoing contentious issue. So Sunak warned migrant boat crisis must be sorted in 6 months to swerve election wipeout. So Rishi Sunak, what was his nickname that you gave him?
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing?
It's almost there. So Rishi has been warned that he has just 6 months to fix a migrant crisis, with thousands more desperate migrants expected to reach the UK shores this summer. So the Prime Minister knows he has to stop the rising tide of small boats crossing the Channel to stand any chance of victory at the end of the year. But senior aides for a Tory wipeout in late 2024 if he goes to the country after a summer in which thousands more illegal immigrants have landed. So there does seem to be this seems to be the issue that needs to be solved sooner from the, the voters' perspective. It seems to be an issue that a lot of people are concerned with, and if Rishi doesn't sort it, they're worried that he's essentially going to lose a vote and lose his popularity.
Yeah.
What do you think? Open all the borders, Leah?
No,
I heard you saying backstage.
I don't believe in complete open borders. I believe we can have sustainable immigration, but maybe we should pick and choose a bit more rather than just anybody with a sob story can turn up. But I mean, the issue here seems to be that the Tory red wall could just evaporate because so many of the cross-channel migrants are sent to northern cities such as Newcastle, and there's an obvious impact on public services, social cohesion, house prices, rental prices. Travel lodge prices as well. So if Rishi isn't seen to be grasping this, then it could be a disaster for his hopes up north.
Yeah, and definitely after what I saw of the news about all the cross-channel sort of travel, it does seem a lot quicker to get into a boat than queue up at Dover. Dover seems to be appalling right now. I mean, maybe we should take all the boats that they land in and send all our school kids across, so at least they can have some of their holiday in France.
Start doing some return trips.
Why not?
And, I mean, do you think the Rwanda flights are going to be taking off? And I mean, we've already seen some
I think they will. I think we'll have more regular Rwanda flights. Rwanda flights. We've got a lot of these tonight. But what I do find interesting is that they are going to house migrants in military bases, which is interesting because one of the things about the illegal immigration is you can't check who's coming through, and you can't say, well, do you have any links to IS or anything like that? And now we're going to put them into a military base?
They'll take the guns out of the military base.
Oh, good. I was just checking.
I mean, I'm assuming it is a UK government, so they might be so inept that they leave the guns in there. We can't rule anything out. Anyway, moving on. Finally, we've got the Mirror, Diane.
Yes. So the front page is on Amanda Mealing, who was the best friend of the legendary Paul O'Grady. And Amanda Mealing is saying that Paul O'Grady said, please have a laugh at my funeral. Please don't be morose. And do you know what? I think that's fair. If there's one thing that we all know as comedians, we much prefer it when people are laughing, whether they're laughing with us or at us. And what I love about...
not at my funeral. I want every Friday. I want people throwing themselves on the bonfire.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Oh, wow. You're going to go like full Celt kind of. You're going to have a pyre.
Somebody will set fire to something.
I want one of those. I want one of those sky funerals where they bury you, not bury you, but they leave you on a mountain and you get eaten by birds.
Right, like the Zoroastrians.
Yeah.
I want to be buried in a forest because I've heard that there's a thing called the mycelial network, which is where, the mushrooms. So I want to become part of the network with all the mushrooms. But back to Paul O'Grady. What I think is fabulous about Paul is the amount of charity work that he did. And so there's like a whole generation of people who won't necessarily know who Lily Savage was, but will know Paul O'Grady for the love of dogs, for somebody who did so much work with Battersea Dogs Home. And it's really nice to kind of celebrate. I hope they bring loads of dogs to the funeral because, you know, Paul loved dogs, so why not?
Yeah, a funeral's not a funeral without lots of barking dogs. I mean, because he was also known for his quick wit. I mean, when the Vauxhall Tavern was raided and he was dressed as Lily Savage back at the height of AIDS hysteria, the police turned up wearing rubber gloves because they were afraid of catching AIDS basically. And he turned around and says, "Well, looks like we've got some help with the washing up." Well, I thought it was funny. Anyway, Savage. Still to come, we discuss ChatGPT being banned in Italy, how Stevenage ladies are crucial to Labour's success in the next election, and why religion is blind. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway, Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to your Saturday night headliners. I hope you got a cold beer from the fridge. I'm Leo Kearse and I'm joined by Jonathan Cogan and Diane Spencer. I don't know what he's doing there. Anyway, let's continue. We kicked things off with The Observer, and Keir Starmer needs to appeal to a Stevenage woman, apparently. Let's hope he knows what a Stevenage is, because he doesn't know what a woman is, Jonathan.
I've also never known a woman's touch. So, Stevenage woman, vital to Labour success at next election, analysts say. So, Keir Starmer needs to win over the Stevenage woman, who's like an archetypal hypothetical voter, to reach Downing Street. That's what he's been told by the people briefing him. Basically, there's a predominantly female voter that they're missing out on, that they haven't kind of won over yet.
Right.
Now, so the Stevenage woman, I've got some points about them. She's a hypothetical voter who's a middle-aged housewife with children who is disillusioned with politics. She leans socially conservative on cultural issues, but left-leaning on economic issues, which is obviously the worst combo. She's attracted to Daniel Craig, but wouldn't bang Jason Momoa, and she only shoplifts occasionally to get her distant husband.
Are you making some of this up, Jonathan?
No, it's all hard-hitting news.
Right,
This is real.
I mean, the Stevenage women, do you think Keir Starmer's battles with gender ideology are going to scupper him with the Stevenage women, Diane?
Oh, just a little bit. I mean, what is interesting about... I love the phrase Stevenage woman. It's kind of like, I feel like we need a costume. Like, there just needs to be a group of Stevenage women. She's disillusioned with politics and she finds Westminster boring. So you've got the most boring leader.
It sounds like everybody.
Yeah, it's like you've got the most boring leader trying to win over the board. That's double bored.
He lives in the most boring place.
In the boring place.
Shout out to Stevenage.
I mean, Stevenage did make Lewis Hamilton, so I will give them that.
Well, maybe if people are accustomed to the boredom, they will like Keir, because he's not going to rock the boat in that respect. It's just going to continue with some boredom.
Yeah, but what I find interesting about this is that they're saying, oh, no, this is the group that we need to win over. No, do you know what? The minute you decided that you weren't going to commit to what a woman was, these women, like, you're going to have to do something pretty drastic to get them to come over to Labour, which is sad because I'm a left-leaning person and I was angry and furious at this man. And
furious enough not to vote for him?
Don't pressure me. I think they should hand over, they're going to need to, like, give out shopping coupons or something. They're going to need to do something to win these people over.
So, yeah, actually, I'd like that. If when political pamphlets come through the door, if I can get 20p off some Daz, that would endear me to that party.
The buying a vote?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, it's
works.
probably illegal. It's probably illegal for that very reason.
We endorse it.
I mean, what do you think Labour's chances are at the next election, Jonathan?
I think it's probably... It's going to be closer than people think, but I don't think they've got it. Which is, after everything the Tories have kind of put this fine nation through over the last few years with all the lockdown stuff, it's hard to say. I don't know. I want them both to lose.
That is, well, maybe they will, as has happened in some other European countries. Anyway, the Sunday Times now, and gender woo-woo nonsense brought down Nicola Sturgeon. Could it also bring down her replacement, Humza Yousaf, Diane?
So, in the Sunday Times, we have the headline, Pressure on Humza Yousaf to drop the gender recognition reform bill. So when Hamza campaigned to be the leader of the SNP, he was like waving this flag going, I am going to challenge the UK courts. They can't Section 35 our laws. We made this law. And he was also like, and I'm going to campaign for LGBTQ rights.
And this is around the gender reform bill.
Yes. And this is the reform bill where you get to self-identify your gender. So rather than sort of going through a medical procedure, rather than spending time living as the gender that your gender dysphoria tells you are, you just go, I'm a lady, tampons, please. And then you sashay away. So that is the bill. But it turns out that it seems that 82% of people that were questioned by this team called Panel Base, and I believe they were commissioned by the Sunday Times, 82% said, don't bother.
Yeah.
So it turns out that only 4% of people think that this is a priority.
Yeah, and even amongst SNP voters, only 35% supported Yusuf's opinion that we should continue with this bill and challenge Westminster.
Well, it was a very polarising bill in the first place, wasn't it? There were some old school SNP characters I saw kind of complaining about how it's divided the party, and they were actually apparently quite close to getting their independence, and then this was the issue that they essentially tripped up on politically. And
it's really sort of destroyed the SNP. It's brought down Nicola Sturgeon, and then Peter Murrell followed soon after. And part of the reason I think the SNP were keen to push the gender reform bill through was because it lowered the age at which children could identify as another gender, officially identify as another gender. So then they'd be saying, well, if they can identify as another gender, why can't they vote? And then they'd lower the age of voting, and obviously all children want to vote SNP because children are naive idiots.
Children are base these days. They're like the 10-year-olds. They are, they've been raised on a diet of Andrew Tate and you.
So maybe you can vote. You can vote like up until the age of 10, and then you can't vote until you hit about 75.
But I have a theory. You see, Hamza was also the health secretary, and Scotland has got one of the worst health records, of everybody. They have an issue with the amount of time that you live. Like, if you're a poor Scottish man, you get 13 years less life than a well-off Scottish man. Right? But if you make it easier to change your gender, you see, a poor Scottish woman only gets 10 less years of life. Do you see where I'm going here? I think that if they get more Scottish people to change gender, suddenly their health statistics look pretty good.
I'm not sure that the evidence is there that transgender people will actually live longer. Anyway, the Sunday Times, again, and it seems the Italian government are worried about Skynet becoming self-aware, Jonathan.
They are, they're freaking out. So for all you guys know what ChatGPT is by now, but for those who don't, so it's a language-trained AI model that has basically been trained on billions of inputs of language, and you can essentially ask it to create almost anything, like stories, code. It's like a very sophisticated AI.
It's a program on your computer or on your phone. I'm not sure if you can download it.
No, there are apps that use it that you can download, but it's basically on a browser. But anyway, to the headline. So Italy, this wonderful technology, Italy becomes the first Western nation to ban ChatGPT. So just quickly, the other countries have also banned ChatGPT. They're a really good group. It's China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. So they're doing good work there.
Everyone we're at war with.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'd say. But the real reason why the Italians have actually banned ChatGPT is because it didn't understand this. It just didn't know what that meant. So they're just like, no, it's gone. But, that's their loss. I think it's a wonderful tool. Yeah. And it can be used in massively creative ways and also hilarious ways. So come on, Italy, do better.
No, you say that. The reason why they banned it is because
the actual story. Thank you.
Yeah, the actual story. They were collecting information from people and just storing it because the artificial intelligence, the AI, is learning all the time from the people who use it. Now, the people who are using it haven't necessarily consented to being its teacher. It's kind of like having a weird parrot that's kind of learning off everybody all at once.
Reading everybody's social media content, and it's also scanning pictures. I saw a lot of AI-generated images have the Getty Images watermark. It's looked at so many of those images to learn.
Oh yeah, that's the Mid Journey, but that's the image generator. Right. But actually, no. I think maybe ChatGPT now have an image thing linked into it. It's basically evolving so fast.
It's all nerd technology stuff.
Yeah, but also, like, you know, TikTok steals your data. Google has a file on you. Everything has a file on you. Why this one in particular?
Yeah.
I suppose it's something to do with the fact that they're raising that they're not saying exactly why the personal data is being collated or exactly how it's being used.
Right.
Whereas with sort of Facebook, at least you know they're trying to flog you some trousers or something.
Right.
You know, they're basically just collecting. They're trying to sort of check, oh, so what are you going to buy and who are you voting for?
Whereas ChatGPT might be trying to kill us. Anyway, the Telegraph now, and a man has been emptying his yogurt over women's faces. Sounds like the ending of a pornographic film, Dan.
It really does. I mean, so the Telegraph, a man pours yogurt over the heads of women without hijabs. So this happens in the city of Mashhad, and Iranians are celebrating, I believe it's pronounced Nowruz, I could be wrong, it's the new year. Now, this CCTV will show a mother and a daughter at a shop counter, and they are not wearing coverings over their
Yeah, and
heads.
we're gonna show the here's the clip here.
Yes, so you can.
And this has been a huge issue in Iran with women protesting the mandatory hijab by not wearing it.
Yeah. Now, I'm.
Oh, they got absolutely mullered.
Oh my God.
This bloke is showing that he is.
It's the way I tall them.
Ooh!
It's a sad thing. It's misogynistic. It's obviously some kind of just vicious attack, and it's horrible, and it shouldn't be done. And you never know what someone's throwing on you these days. It could be yogurt. It could be something much, much worse and dangerous. It's sad.
But if it's coming off the shelf in a grocery shop, it's probably not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's just appalling because obviously there is so much happening in Iran right now, and these women. They have to remember that before 1979, when all these rules came in, people were just dressing how they wanted to dress. It was a very free society, and it just looked beautiful and free and vibrant. And so that's what these people are fighting to get back. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know we're supposed to make it light-hearted and things like that, but being a woman and knowing that I can't go to places like Iran because I mean, I'll just be sort of arrested. It's actually quite terrifying to be a human being and think there's places on the world that will treat you like that.
If it makes you feel any better, Islam's going to be the biggest religion in the UK by 2050. So that's something to cheer us up. The Telegraph next, and Catholics feel discriminated against at work. That must make them cross. Nailed it. Jonathan, tell us more.
Very nice. So religion is blind spot for discrimination at work, Peer claims. So Lord Alton, who is 72, a crossbench peer and vice president of the Catholic Union, claimed that people of faith are being discriminated against at work, adding that they should not feel they need to conceal an essential part of who they are. Yeah, I was told I couldn't wear my Pokemon pajamas on show tonight, which is not acceptable. So, basically, the idea...
You didn't have to dress even worse.
Yeah, this is my Digimon hoodie. No, so the idea here is that religion is not getting the same protections in the working place that other things are, such as your sexuality or your gender, those kind of things. So there was an instance of a nurse who was wearing a cross, and she was told that she couldn't do it. She was a nurse because it was a bacterial thing. Yet she found that other people's religious iconography and such was allowed. So she kind of felt that her protected beliefs weren't being protected. And there seems to be a trend that way.
And she felt singled out as a Christian, whereas people are more wary about offending other religions.
Yeah, for example, like Muslim women wearing headscarves.
Yeah.
They're not going to say to them, take off your headscarf because we're worried it might have bacteria on it, but they'll say to a nurse wearing a crucifix, take that off, we're not going to have any vampire hunters in this hospital. And, I mean, this is interesting. The difficulty is that, obviously, they compare it to the discrimination based on gender, race, and something else. I can't remember the last one. But those are things you're just born with, like disability. Those are things you might born with or you have, you can't change. Whereas now, go with me gently on this.
Sexuality.
Yeah, sexuality. Yeah. You're just...
No, you can change.
What?
If you wanted to.
We can?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
You totally could. If you want, you could, out of spite.
Out of
you could
spite.
just prove a point. You could.
That is an amazing sort of collection of pornographic films that Leo's going to make, just called Out of Spite, and it's where he does some horrendous things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this. Whereas your religion is something that I mean, it isn't something you're born with, you're born into.
Yeah.
So I can see why the blind spot, as they call it, has been created, because obviously there are people who are born into a religion and become atheists.
Well, yeah, and also I guess a belief, then any belief is well, somebody could be a Jedi, or, I could classify myself as, a one-off religion that thinks everybody's showing a capybara, and then my work has to provide a capybara. Anyway, coming up next, we discuss how LGBT charities are acting dodgy, how Gone with the Wind has been branded harmful by its own publisher, and the Brits fighting back with the Amsterdam crackdown. See you in a couple of seconds.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. The Sunday Times now reporting on renegade Church of England priests who actually want to teach what it says in the Bible, Diane.
So the Times headline is C of E priests form breakaway faction over same-sex blessings. So a group of traditionalist priests in the City of London have decided, there's 10 of them, right? I mean, how many disciples were there? There were 10, weren't there?
Yeah.
Were there? Yeah. So I sometimes get them confused with reindeer.
12.
No, were there 12? There were 12.
Yeah.
Ah, well done. Ah, no, they need 2 more. So they've broken away because they don't even want to bless a same-sex marriage because the word has come down from sort of the head of the church.
Not from God.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if God's picking up the phone. I don't know who he talks to. Everybody claims they're talking to him, and I don't know if anybody's really got his number. I reckon God's still on fax. So they've said that although they're not going to perform same-sex marriages, they will bless them. But this group of 10 priests have said, no, we don't want to do that. We're going to make our own People's Front of Judea. You can be the Judean People's Front.
Right. So another schism in the Church of England.
Yeah, I mean, there is. At what point does something within religion become set in stone? Because I can completely see the arguments for, well, we want to be progressive and move with the times, and that would be my personal view. But at the same time, if it is the word of God that these are the rules, at what point can they decide to change it? Is it an interpretation? Because if it was always an interpretation, does that mean it was never right, in which case it's been followed wrong? Or are they just going against the words, the beliefs of their religion? I don't understand. What is the rules?
Yeah, and I'm not a religious person myself, but I quite like the idea of a religion, of the Church of England, sort of not just bending to the whims of whatever fashion is the trend of the times, not liking Bros because it's 1985 and then, getting a mullet because it's 1987. It's like you're the Church. Just stick. These things were written on stone tablets for a reason. They're not written in something that can just be, it's not an Etch-a-Sketch.
Huh? Yeah. And also, obviously, like the whole of the Old Testament, like a lot of things in the Old Testament, those rules were made null and void when Jesus comes along. So there's a lot of kind of weird, well, which rules do we follow now? Like, because you have Jesus, you don't need to do animal sacrifices.
Yeah. And it's going to be like New Labour. Now we're going to have a new Labour. Anyway, the Sunday Telegraph now, and another classic novel is being smeared by its own publisher, Diane.
Oh, yes. So the Telegraph says that Gone with the Wind has been branded harmful by its own publisher. So now at the front of Gone with the Wind, there is a trigger warning and an essay. And the trigger warning will tell would-be readers that it was written in a time when there were racist elements and it could be harmful or hurtful. Now, I think this is brilliant. I really do, because there's going to be people who might read Gone with the Wind. I mean, I doubt it, to be honest with you, because you already know there's a film, so you might as well just watch that and just put a warning in front of the film. And those people are going to watch it and go, this is horrendous, but it is a piece of history. So rather than change the piece of history, just say, oh, by the way, this is not how we behave now, as we all know, but look, this is what the situation was like. And I think that's actually a really good idea, rather than change the original text.
So it's good that they haven't revised the text. As we've seen with Roald Dahl, for example, a sensitivity reader has gone in and made changes, although I don't think they're doing that with the Quran for some reason. But they're happy to do it to Roald Dahl because he's dead and he can't kick off about it. But this, you think putting a warning? I'd have thought it's a book set in like the old days. It's going to have some whatever pirates or something that say bad things.
Well, I think they should take this a step further and just every offensive album that's ever been made music-wise, they should just put an essay between every song. So if it's like a sexist glam metal band from the 80s or like a violent hip-hop album, just an essay in between. Right. Don't let people get to the interesting, problematic stuff until they've been lectured. That's my thoughts.
Anyway, the Mail on Sunday now reporting on someone whose holiday in Afghanistan turned into a disaster. Let's hope he had good travel insurance, Jonathan.
So, danger tourist and humanitarian worker are among 3 Britons being held prisoner by Taliban secret police in Afghanistan, which is obviously quite upsetting. So a charity medic, Kevin Cornwell, who's 53, and another British national who manages a hotel for aid workers have been detained by the Taliban's secret police in early January. So they've been there for some time. And the other Briton who is there is a notorious danger tourist, who is Miles Routledge, who boasts about going to all these dangerous places and experiencing these kind of very different cultures and having wild times and putting himself in dangerous situations. But now it's sort of caught up with them, very sadly. Have you ever been a danger tourist? Have you ever put yourself in harm's way?
I've eaten from an all-you-can-eat buffet once.
Yeah, fair enough. That is kind of risky. But these guys they're kind of struggling. But the issue is that the UK doesn't have an embassy or any consulates in Afghanistan following the Taliban takeover. So there's not an obvious solution to this. I think in a different country we might be able to get out there and kind of rescue them. But what now?
Yeah, well, also, I mean, the issue is you have 2 people that we really need to get out, and you have this idiot. And I'm sorry, but this guy is an idiot. idiot because he went to Afghanistan and he's showing off on his YouTube channel how he may have got there with forged documents.
So he's revealing his crime.
Yeah, he is. And it's like, sir, you might want to wind that in, and I think there's better ways to get views. I mean, he's from Loughborough University, and I went there too, and I just feel sad that he did this. But what's interesting to me is that, you see, the Afghan government, which is formed, obviously, of the Taliban, is a load of people who are in cells, and they were groups, and a lot of them were freedom fighters, and they don't necessarily know how to govern. And one of the people who's been arrested is because he had a gun in his safe in the hotel that he ran.
Yeah.
But the problem is that he had been issued the gun, he had a permit for it issued by the Taliban government. So
this is a bureaucratic...
It's a bureaucratic error,
right,
because the Taliban is not as good at running a country as they think they are,
right,
and it's really still a very, very, very dangerous place.
Yeah, OK. Well, the Sunday Express now, and it seems the Dutch Tourist Board has underestimated the British desire to get absolutely plastered, Diane.
This is danger tourism. So the headline is Amsterdam's crackdown on British men defied as stag party bookings to the city soar. So Amsterdam had a campaign called Stay Away, which I think is really cute because that's not normally what a tourist board does. And they were kind of showing these adverts saying, look at this young man. He went out in Amsterdam. He got so paralytic and off his face, he's been arrested. And of course, all the British lads went, yeah, let's go. And so the bookings have soared for Amsterdam by 600%. So it's weirdly not working because now everybody's going, look, we can get so mashed up on drugs. We're going to be arrested, bruv. Let's go.
Do you reckon it was a double bluff where they were like, well, we actually need to increase tourism. What if we just do some reverse psychology?
Yeah, maybe.
That could be a thing. I don't know.
Well, it's definitely worked. Anyway, moving on, in the final section, we discuss plough persons, the men au pause, and a game featuring Harry and Meghan. See you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the final section of Headliners. We've got the Sunday Times now reporting on children being contacted about sex behind their parents' backs. But it's not paedophiles, it's government-funded charities, Jonathan.
Alleged charities. So, the LGBT charity Proud Trust contacted a teenager without parents' permission. One of the agencies providing sex education material to schools has allegedly contacted a transgender teenager without the consent of their parents. It has been claimed after the organisation was named in a report by a think tank. So this was a trans girl, I believe.
What was a child?
This was a child who had been reached out to by a charity for drinking drugs because this child had apparently been abusing alcohol.
Right.
Well, maybe they just had a beer. I don't know what happened, but maybe they were getting smashed every day before school. But then this charity, the Proud Trust, then got in contact with them without their parents' permission and kind of reached out to them to give transitioning advice and stuff like that. Now, I guess the controversy here is that they directly contracted a minor without going through the parents, almost seeming to try and go around the parents.
Yeah, that's exactly what the controversy is. Because they're contacting children without the parents' permission. And we've seen this with other trans charities. I mean, Mermaids, for example, contacted children without the parents' permission. Even gives a number that if the parents phone it back, it'll come up as an unknown number. And we've seen other charities funded by the government, by the way. So this is our taxes going to, such as diversity role models, providing, they provided advice to children that involved testimony from somebody who said when they're 6 years old they were giving oral sex to people in the neighbourhood, and this is abhorrent. This is abhorrent stuff for children to be exposed to, and so much of it, even in its best case, they're enforcing outmoded gender stereotypes.
Yes, and it's interesting that they initially went to seek help for drink and drugs, and then what? The reply they got, oh, the drugs you need to give up? Well, we're going to put you on a whole load of new drugs, and these drugs are going to give you things you never had before, right? Yeah. Like, it just seems like they've taken a vulnerable teenager and instead of addressing the problems head on and saying, oh, okay, it is the drink and the drugs. Well, obviously, what has caused the drink and the drugs?
Yep.
Like, it seems like this has gone very quickly to gender transition.
Yeah.
And that's the worry. It's like, well, surely we should go to counselling first.
Yeah, or maybe just speak to the parents. And the parents are usually the best advocates for their own children, rather than some weird blue-haired apparatchik who has an agenda to transition as many children as possible. Maybe they're paid by the transition. I don't know. Anyway, The Independent now, and the bad news is some celebrity nudes have been leaked. The good news is it's not Kathy Burke, Jonathan.
You didn't read that extra line, Leo?
No, I didn't.
Okay, here's
because she's fat.
Yeah, there we go. So James Norton, you guys know James Norton?
No.
No, I didn't either, but I looked him up and he's a very handsome man. So his nude scenes, I'll read the headline. James Norton's nude scenes should have been respected, not violated by pervy photographers. So there's leaked photographs of the Happy Valley star performing in a play called A Little Life has plunged the theatre world into crisis mode, apparently. So there's a scene where he's getting kicked, he's naked, he's getting kicked and getting spat on, which sounds like a good time to me. But there's a picture of that that's got released, and apparently some horny Stevenage woman took a picture of it, released it, and now it's all gone around the theatre industry. And everyone's basically saying, why would somebody do this? They've violated the sanctity of the audience theatre, the audience performer interaction. And everyone's really upset.
There's a couple of things here. So, for a start, there's context. His performance has now been taken out of context because already he's an actor, and actors get asked to do a lot of strange things. And I've got a load of lines that I won't cross. Other actors, I see them crossing lines and I think, wow, okay, I would never do that. Like, you know, like those adverts where they smell a baby that's clearly just pooed. No, never going to do it. But here, somebody has turned up and they've seen this actor and he's very famous, and so a lot of people are going to find him very attractive. And he is in a very vulnerable position. Like, he is naked on stage and he's having all these horrible things done to him, and already there is an emotional kind of trauma happening because he has to essentially bring this, like, this horrible feeling to life so other people can experience it.
That's his choice, though.
It is his choice, but in the context, he is choosing to do that within the confines of a theatre, and this person has taken the photograph and then plastered it all over, because it was on the Daily Mail website for a little while, but then it was taken down.
Yeah.
And I just think that maybe...
it's almost like revenge porn.
Yes, that's a very good analogy, actually. I wrote some kind of analogy about a fish in a tank versus a fish in a chip shop. But yeah, no, I think your revenge porn's much more...
Well, I'm hungry now. Anyway, the Sun now, and Prince Harry is launching a video game. I'm assuming it's going to be like Mario Brothers, except they don't speak and only one of them eats mushrooms, Jonathan.
So, you know you're Mario. OK, so the story here is, and I'm sure it's not an April Fool's story, I'm sure it's absolutely true, Prince Harry and Meghan set to launch new video game ahead of King's coronation. So Harry and Meghan, again, are set to pile on to the royal family's misery by releasing a video game ahead of the King's coronation. So this has been called Grand Theft... What was it? I've forgotten.
No, that's the Paul
Crown
one.
Theft Auto.
Grand Theft, that's the one. No, it was basically it's a game where you can escape Buckingham Palace. You're Harry and Meghan. There's a fun little mini game there where Harry says
pictures.
Oh, it's out.
Call of Duty.
Oh, this is a fake. This is an April Fool. This isn't a real thing. Look at that.
I know.
Call of Duty.
Who would have thought?
I mean, that looks fun, to be honest.
There's a little mini game where you're Meghan, and every time Harry says something you don't like, you just slap him in the face.
Right.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It's not that great. Anyway, the Mail on Sunday again, and more evidence of the feminisation of pathetic, weak Western men, Jonathan.
To me again?
Yeah, I thought I'd go to you with this one.
Yeah. So I'm a hormone expert, and there are 7 signs your partner is going through the menopause. Basically, the thing is, once you get to 40, about 10 to 25% of men have testosterone levels that are considered to be low. And this is because there's plastic in everything we eat. Men don't exercise, I mean, me too. Men don't exercise as much as they should. Basically, you need to lift weights. You need to eat red meat.
Stay angry,
stay furious, and just watch Joe Rogan 4 to 5 times a week. And your hormones will kick.
Great advice, Jonathan, if only you'd follow it.
Yeah, listen to a lot of Rogan.
Do you think the menopause is a real thing?
I think it could be, because it's all about how you sort of lose testosterone, and there's so many different ways you can lose it. Yeah, like not exercising, not looking at what you eat and stuff like that. And it's amazing. Like, I discovered how much testosterone sort of just gives you like energy. I mean, no wonder like those strange-looking women athletes can run so fast. You have difficulty sleeping if you don't have enough testosterone. You have poor concentration if you don't have enough testosterone. I'm going to start taking this stuff. It sounds great.
Well, you just need to phone up a trans charity and they won't even tell your parents. It's amazing. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. The Sunday Mail has vegan mob plots to sabotage the Grand National. There's the vegan guy they caught out there. He's looking quite chubby for a vegan. They're normally skinny. The Sunday Telegraph has staff can sue their boss if customers offend them. The Observer has care homes crisis, children sent hundreds of miles away. The Sunday Mirror has have a laugh at my funeral, that's Paul O'Grady. The Sunday Express has Rishi has 6 months to sort the boat crisis. And finally, the Daily Star on Sunday has Easter Bunny in sunnies. We're going to get some nice weather. And those were your front pages. That's all we've got time for. Thanks to my guests. And tune in tomorrow at the same time when Josh Howie will be on. And remember, if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, stay tuned.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the people's channel and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's what?